All right. We're here. We're dying to talk about this episode, but before we jump in, we've got a little bit of an update for you, Kateline. Are you ready for this update?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you saw it, but let me just pull up the cock here. Where'd it go? Here we go. Have you watched Family Secrets yet? Have you seen anything about Family Secrets?
I don't know. I watch everything.
Well, I would hope if you watched it, you'd know what I was talking about, because I'm going to hit you with the subtitle. The Disappearance of Alyssa Turney.
Oh.
This is a documentary told from the perspective of Sarah Turney, the daughter that did not want to be on Dateline because she was too busy ticking and talking.
She's ticking and talking. New DA, everybody loves me. Woo!
Remember?
Yeah, and now she has a podcast.
Can we please just get justice for Alyssa now?
But now she has her own doc on the cock, too. So I wonder when AC was saying, oh, she just wanted to focus on her this and that, da-da-da. Maybe what she meant was she has a Peacock deal and we're going to tell that story in the documentary, is maybe what AC was thinking. What do you think?
Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah. Here's the description of it. Viral sensation. Sarah Turney examines her tumultuous childhood to reconstruct the truth about her suspicions that her dad killed her sister Alyssa. I don't think I'm going to be watching this, not because of that description. That description sounded fine to me. But if you recall, old Mike Turney makes my blood boil because of what he's up to these days.
This guy's free as a bird.
Yeah.
Like he could have blown up whole town, Kate.
Listen, I agree. Mike did that.
So I don't know. I mean, are you going to watch it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it.
Okay, well, if you watch it, then I'll probably start it. It takes a lot for me to press play on a true crime thing, but if Kateline's already peeping and is already hitting me with the hot takes, I'm like, well, it's obviously good enough. Play. How do you feel about that?
I'm honored.
I'm Lester Holt.
We got a big one today. Howdy, old heads. Kurt Money here, alongside my co-host,
Kateline.
Yep, we're here to talk about a new Dateline. Now, I mean, what a delicious... Okay, last episode, we were saying that we were in desperate need of a banger. And you proposed maybe the key to the banger is Murphdog. Mm-hmm. And although this is an official AC app,
Here's Andrea Canning.
I think we can argue that Murphdog done delivered. Am I right?
He did. He started it.
He started
and
it.
AC finished it.
Which is I mean, look, we got a good app on our hands and we're going to do all the normal stuff. I'm about to break it down. But I'm just going to tell you right now, Kateline, my biggest question here is, one, where the is Murphdog? And two, is he retiring or are they firing him? Those are my biggest cues today.
They're not firing him. There's no way.
So you think he's like sick or maybe gearing up to retire?
I don't know. How old is he?
He's up there. He's mid-70s at least. He's probably on the tail end of the 70s.
Really?
I think so. Actually, you know what? Off to the Goog. Okay, he is... Or it doesn't say so on his main page. He doesn't like to... Actually, it doesn't say it anywhere. I'm just going to Google how old is Murphdog.
Is Murphdog.
Okay. Oh, no, that's not right. You know that the bullshit AI overview?
Yeah.
The age at which Dennis Murphy died depends on which person you're referring to.
Great, thanks.
Not the dead one, AI. Not the dead one. Okay, look, I can't find his age, Kate.
I think that means he's way old.
He's hella old.
And he doesn't want people to know.
I mean, KM's age is out there. J-Mank's age is out there. I mean, I would never dare Google AC's age, of course. Have we ever discussed it? I don't even like bringing it up. Or is that wrong of me? Should we discuss it like we do J-Mank's? Is it the same thing? What do you think?
Well, I mean, you already know it because you love her.
Yeah.
But that, whatever her age may be, is not a deterrent to you, so...
Absolutely not. And before I get lost in all my other cues, I'm going to hit you with that IMDb. What do you think?
Great.
The night of the nor'easter.
IMDb description. The latest developments in the high-profile murder trial of Karen Reed, who was accused of killing her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, by reversing her car into him. And somehow some shithead named Turtleboy is involved. Oh, this is a pretty good description. What do you think, Kate?
It didn't say that, Kurt. You're just funning.
I'm just goofing. A little tease for what I think of Turt. Turtleboy. Turt sounds too much like Kurt. We can't have any of that.
No.
But we're going to kick that down the road. Kateline, hit me with your overall thoughts of this app. You watched it first, right? You were the one that was like, oh boy, we're going to have our hands full.
Well, Jillionaire, she She was very familiar with the story, so much so that she didn't want to watch the episode because she was like, I've seen this, I've talked about it, I've heard all about it, I don't care.
Classic Jillionaire.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I haven't, so I'm excited to watch. And then she said that it was a J-Mank episode, and it wasn't.
Nope.
And then she basically spoiled it for me.
Do you want to say what she said, or you want to save that till the end?
She talked a little bit too much about the plot and the conspiracy. And I said, please don't say anything about it. All I asked was, are you watching it? And then she hit me with all of her thoughts and then told me the whole thing. And I was like, okay, we go through this every time.
Every Friday.
Don't say anything to me. So this was all new to me. Maybe our listeners are also tired of this story, but I loved it.
Same here. I loved it. There's definitely a lot to talk about. I have an opinion on what happened. But I'm not mad at where the court stuff is right now. Wait, real quick. Didn't Jillionaire also say, was this the same convo where she said that J-Mank was her fave, but she called him Steve? Is this the same convo?
Yep. Yep. I said, who hosted? And she said, oh, my favorite. And I was like, oh, Keith? And she was like, no. And then I was like, do you mean J-Mank? And she was like, Mankiewicz. Yeah. What's his first name? Steve. Steve Mankiewicz.
A real fave of Jillionaires.
Mom's favorite.
That's good. All right, well, let's start this story in January of 2022 in Canton, Massachusetts. Now that you would know without them saying it because these accents are thick on a few of these Bostonians, right? Mm-hmm. A few of them are pretty thick.
So I think when she was initially charged, those seemed like the appropriate charges to issue at that time.
So Karen Reed meets her, are they married or just boyfriend, girlfriend?
BFGF.
Karen Reed meets her boyfriend of 2 years, John O'Keefe, at a bar where they're all hanging out with their buds. Now, John O'Keefe is a Boston police officer, and everybody else in their group is quasi-involved in law as well. Like, one guy was an ATF. I think one of them was a detective. This was a wall of blue out there kicking it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tall blue wall.
Okay, so she goes out, and perhaps it's because of that Karen Reed, who drove to this party, was comfortable drinking a hell of a lot of booze with their buds, and then getting behind the wheel of a car to drive her and her BF John to the after party. Do I have everything right so far?
So far, that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, I mean, things crystallized in my theory of what happened when later they defined how many drinks she had. That is when I was like, well, now I know that what I'm suggesting is probably correct. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they go to another bar, they have some drinks, and it's like 12:10, it says on the security footage, because we see this too. We see her come in, we see John offer her a seat, they're standing, they're drinking, they're having fun. You can't tell, they're not even really rowdy, right? Like, it's not...
No, it's a very calm night. The bar isn't even crowded, and it's just their small group hanging out.
Yeah, and they were saying closing time. So it closed at midnight, so it wasn't like a bar, right? It's probably like a sports or like a Hey, remember Damon's? Are those still around? Do you remember what Damon's are?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's okay. Sorry. I'm off track. Mrs. C says, get back on the straight and narrow. So after this, they decide they're going to go over to one of the guys' houses that they're hanging out with. And this is another cop, and the after party's there. So everybody gets in their cars, and they head that way. And while we got to say, the title of this is The Night of the Nor'easter, which sounds hella dope and makes me think of like folk horror, like The Wicker Man or something.
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
But I looked up what the root of it is. It's just Northeaster. That is such a disappointing reveal to me. Did you know that?
Yeah.
It's hella snowy is basically what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of snowstorms going on. There's snow everywhere. You knew that nor'easter was just northeaster?
Yeah, I mean, well, not to give too much away, but, you know, we had them where I'm from.
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to bleep out something in there. They get to the house, and this is all according to Karen Reed, who a year and a half ago sat down with Murphdog. That's where this began as a Murphdog ep. We're talking like mid-2023 or something. They sat down and she's given the story. And according to her, they show up to the house and it looks dead. Like this is not the place of an after party. Like there weren't lights on or something.
There weren't any cars in the driveway, just the homeowners' cars.
That's what I was going to ask you. I needed to know if and when they said if there were cars in the driveway. So they were not, just the people that lived there.
Yeah, so there was just like the two cars in the driveway, but she thought since the whole group was going there, wouldn't all the cars be there? But they weren't.
So she rolls up and she's like, I don't know, I kind of want to go home. And John says, okay, I'll go up to the door and see if this party's a rockin' and see if we should come knocking. According to Karen, he hops out and she says she's pulled up to the house. Passenger side door is like facing the driveway entrance. They're not on the driveway, I don't believe. You agree with that?
Yeah, she kind of just pulled over to the side of the road, blocking the driveway to let him out.
Yeah, and she says that he ran up and she saw him start to stick his head in. She didn't see the door open or close or him fully enter, but she says that he was at the door assessing the party the last she looked up.
Yeah.
Right?
She was looking at her phone.
Yeah, because right then she goes down to her phone. Now, we know the specific because good old Murphdog, the conversation train, was running over.
Kurt, he was on one again.
He was really on one, wasn't he?
He wouldn't let her finish a single sentence. It was crazy. I had to pause it and stop myself from texting you because he was, honestly, he was being rude.
A little, and it's tough for us to call because they just played us a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to Brian Albert's house.
Brian Albert.
Yeah, which I had never been to.
You're driving.
I'm driving.
What are you driving? What's your vehicle?
I have a Lexus LX, which is
That's
the full-size
That's the
SUV.
monster truck, right?
Yes.
But I don't know how else to read it. It was a race to say what she was saying, right?
Yes.
Like, it's not like he was about to say something new.
You know how sometimes AC will, if she knows the person she's interviewing is a complete dud and not giving her anything, she has to pull things out?
Yeah.
That's the way Murph was acting. But Karen is fully disclosing every detail from the night because she wants to prove her innocence. So she's not being tight-lipped about it, and he's still talking right over her. It was crazy.
Yeah, and again, that's where I went back to my number one cue. What's up with Murphdog and why is he not around? And I'll tell you this. I thought, well, for sure Murphdog's going to host the Talking Dateline. Surely. Because that's where we'd find out what was up with Murphdog. Wrong-o! Blaine Alexander, the new blood, in there hosting Talking Dateline, talking to AC.
We are talking Dateline. I'm here today with Andrea Canning. Hi, Andrea. Hey, Blaine.
No mention of Murphdog. What do you think, Kateline?
I don't know. I don't want it to be true.
Me neither. And full disclosure, I did not finish the episode, okay? I was a little rattled by the Murph-doggedness, and the stuff they were talking about I wasn't too into. Like about the power of social media. I'm like, snooze. Tired of hearing about that.
Oh, you mean you didn't finish the podcast?
Yes, of course I finished this Dateline. I said, and I even though it's very difficult to do on the cock, I went right back to the beginning and press play again.
And this is Dateline.
But he's disappeared, and he's gone for what, 20 minutes? Do we get a number of how long she did not see him?
She said it felt like 10 minutes, I think. And she was texting him and calling and being like, dude, what's going on? Come on. Are we in or are we out? And she didn't get a response.
Yeah. And so she decides to go home. Or she says she slow rolls out of there. And I'm waiting for John to go, Karen, where are you going? But that seems like a weird thing for him to say out of the blue if she's on the street and the last she saw of him was in the house, right? Her explanation of what she expected to happen when she rolled slowly out of there was a little suspicious.
I think what I took from it was that she felt like at least what she hoped would happen is that he would check out the door finally and see that she was leaving and then stop her. But that didn't happen. No one stopped her.
Nope. So she drove home, laid down on the coats by the front door, and proceeded to call John. And she gives us the number 50 times. And we hear a few of those voicemails. And what's the vibe of Karen Reed on these voicemails?
She is beyond angry.
Yeah.
Now, we know how drunk she is.
Yeah.
And she didn't really want to go to that party. And then, from her perspective, he just kind of ditched her out there and maybe was expecting her to come in and she wasn't having it and she was mad and just laid into him.
You're a loser.
And
right? There's a lot of
in a very thick Boston accent.
Yeah.
You're a loser. Yourself.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like the kind of voicemails you leave somebody when you've just intentionally hit them.
Okay, so is this where we say what we believe? Is this where we say it?
Well, we have to keep saying what happened first.
Okay, all right.
And then we'll...
Okay, Kurt, we're almost there. I just can't wait to unleash my theory, because I bet you agree with it. So she's calling, and then she just passes out on the coats. Like, she just falls asleep right there at the door. She wakes up at like 4 a.m., still no John. So now, I assume she calls his number a few more times, gets a few more losers in there.
yourself.
And then she calls a friend of theirs that was with them, that was in their group of friends, correct? Jen McCabe. I thought it was McKay. We've had a Jen McCabe before. She called her, and what did she said, she's like, John's missing. I don't know where John is.
And I said, Jen, where is John? And she said, I don't know what's going on. I said, he didn't come home.
And Jen says he didn't come to the party. He never showed up.
She calls Jen McCabe, whose brother-in-law is the guy who was hosting the after party. Brian Albert is that guy's name. Jen calls her sister, and the sister says, there was no Karen Reed or John O'Keefe here last night. They didn't show up. They were never here to begin with. And so Jen reports this back to Karen Reed, and what's Murphdog say now? What's he say? He says some fun stuff. Potentially on my list. Kurt, shut up. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
He said, well, now you're living in the Twilight Zone. Like he's talking about how you can hear the Twilight Zone in his head.
That was a really good impression.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your John never came in the door.
Yep. She
Okay,
just
so
said,
you're hearing the Twilight Zone music at this point. huh?
yeah.
You know I loved that. And Murphdog does say, when they're describing the atmosphere at the party, he said it was good vibes, as we used to say.
Right.
The vibes, as we used to say in the old days, were good.
The vibes were good. Yes. Yeah, the vibes were good.
That was pretty funny. I mean, also what's funny is vibes is still very much in the lexicon. I don't think it's used as Murphdog did, but vibes is still in there.
Oh, yeah.
People talk about vibes all the damn time.
That's just classic Murph. Just a little off.
yeah.
Trying hard, but a little off.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to save it by going, that's what the old people used to say. Oh, Murphdog, you should have trusted yourself and just stuck with it. You should have just stuck with it. Okay, so Karen Reed's here in the Twilight Zone. She calls another friend and tells her the story. So John's missing. She calls the second friend and says the same thing. I don't know where the hell John is. So now that friend calls 911.
My name is Carrie. I'm calling because my friend's boyfriend did not come home last night.
This is the first but not last 911 call, and none of the 911 calls are coming from Karen Reed, correct?
Yeah, it's a little weird.
A little weird. So that friend calls the cops, and they have both 911 calls, I believe, right?
They do.
She says, hey, my friend's boyfriend is missing. We don't know where he is. So all three of these ladies team up, and they're going to look for John. And why don't you take it from here when they roll up to the party house?
Karen is in the back seat, and her two friends are up front. And that's probably because Karen is, one, still drunk, and two, very distraught. And
yeah,
she's in the back seat, and they pull up to the party house, and Karen can see him laying on the piece of grass between the driveway and like the neighbor's house.
But there's zero grass, right? I mean, he's like on a snow pile.
It's covered in snow. It's covered in snow, and he's pretty covered in snow because it had been snowing.
Yeah.
But she can see him, and they can't. They're like, what are you talking about? Where? He's not here.
And she goes, Karen, you're hysterical.
And she's like, no, he's right there. She jumps out of the car.
Right.
The car hasn't even stopped moving. She jumps out of the moving car and runs over to him. And sure enough, he's there, and he is beat up.
He believed that it was Brian Albert who had tuned up John.
His eyes are swollen shut, and
bloody nose.
He's got like lacerations, bloody nose. He looks crazy. He's blue. He's frozen. They weren't sure what state he was in, but he looked blue. He looked cold. So that's when the other girl calls 911 again.
We hear that too.
No, and
it was the other friend. It does not matter. The only thing that matters is that it was not Karen Reed. But it was a second friend.
It was not Karen. It was the other friend.
Yeah.
Yes, I need someone to come immediately.
What's going on?
There's a guy unresponsive in the snow.
We also have dash cam footage of when the cops arrive.
Yeah.
And you can see the girls kind of walking around, and Karen is like tearing around. She's crazed, looking panicked. Rightfully so. They just found John, and he's pretty f***ed up.
Yeah. I got to give this shout out to John O'Keefe, the deceased, because she said that he never wore a coat, and you know, Kateline, I respect the hell out of that.
I thought you might.
And he had no coat. He never wore a coat.
I love that, because I'd be wearing no coats in snow all the time. So John, boom. Because also, let's remember that you're wearing a coat for 2% of the night out. Like, you wear it from the car to inside the club, and then you hold the jacket for 4 hours. Why?
It's a drag.
Boom. John gets it. I get it.
I mean, how do you think women feel? We have to hold purses and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why you guys are so stoked when dresses have pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
Good, honey.
First responders show up. They throw John in the ambulance and take him to the hospital. They also take Karen because she is hysterical, right? Like she's losing it.
Yeah, they had to put her in like a brief psychiatric hold because she was not calming down.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if like did they sedate her or something? Because it was like time passed and then her dad showed up.
They may have. I have experience with panic attacks, and I've been to the ER a few times, and they sedate the shit out of me.
What's that like?
Terrible.
Do you feel yourself going to sleepy land, or are you raging, going like, no, I need to continue to rage?
Oh, no, I'm like, give me everything. Put me out.
Is it like at the dentist? Is it the same thing?
Well, I don't know, because I have perfect teeth, and I've never been in twilight sleep for any dental procedures.
Okay.
I've never had any dental procedures.
No. Kate has perfect credit and perfect teeth, and don't you forget it. Am I right?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So she wakes up and her dad comes in to talk to her and says, bad news, John is no longer with us. So at this point in the Dateline is when they stop everything to give us the behind the scenes and the backstory on John O'Keefe. Because his family had some crazy tragedy where his sister dies of a brain aneurysm, and then months later, that sister's husband dies of a heart attack, and they have like 5 kids, right?
Yeah.
And John, who was never married, never had any kids, takes him on. He's now the official Funkle. He's wearing a shirt that says Funkle. And AC's loving this. She's saying it'd be a TV drama.
Yeah. John is definitely the all-star of this episode. Imagine doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, by all accounts, he seems like a great guy. Now, there's baggage I come into this just him being a cop in Boston.
Sure.
But I'm with you. Right now, he's sounding and looking like a great dude.
But also, one of the conspiracy theories that we'll cover about what happened actually kind of does shed some light on how he was perceived as a cop. It sounds like, if you believe one of the conspiracy theories, he was like one of the good guys who didn't play ball with the bad guys. Huh?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. If you believe the conspiracy, then yes, that supports that 1,000%. I agree with that.
Let's face it, who can trust a cop who don't take money?
So he's taking on these. He's now a dad to these kids. They're loving life, and then he meets Karen Reed, and they date for 2 years. And as far as we know so far, happy times.
Yeah.
They're getting out the nice china and having dinner with everybody. They're having weekly meals. Things are good.
Mm-hmm.
We all dressed up and ate at the dining room table with the fancy china.
What's crazy here is that. Okay. So I'm so glad I got to kill this real quick. Hang on. Boom! Karen Reed leaves the hospital. She goes back to John's house with her dad, and she talks to the kids, because the kids are at the house like, uh-oh, now our Funkle is dead. What's going on? She talks to him for a little bit, goes upstairs, packs a bag, and then, according to John's sister, walks out of that house without saying goodbye to these kids.
She just left. Never said goodbye.
What do you think?
I think maybe she didn't realize it would be the last time she spoke to them.
Yeah, I could see that. But then, who does she tell this will be the last time we speak? Was that to the kids or to, like, a sister or something?
Oh, right. She
Do you
did
remember
say
this?
that. It wasn't to the kids, though. It was to someone else.
What Karen said to her was, we'll probably never see each other again. And, Erin said to her, what do you mean we're friends?
I guess because with John gone, why would she have any contact with his extended family?
Yeah. The extended family I agree with. I guess I'd have to know what the situation was in the house. Like, I'm not mad at Karen because she didn't say I'm your mom now.
Right.
But I guess that could have been on the table, but we don't know what their relationship was.
Well, she didn't live there.
Right? Like, I'm not good point. They didn't live together.
No.
You're right. Okay.
I don't think that they were that serious where she was going to be trying to be a mom to these kids, even with John alive.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they knew her. She went over and hung out and they liked her, but she had her own house. I mean, we should note that Karen is a grown-up. She had her own career. She had her own house. She had her own life.
Yeah, boy, it's funny you mention that because her lawyer loves to talk about how when he first talked to her, he thought she was young. That was weird beginning, too.
It was weird.
She sounded young to me. My first thought was, this is a teenager. I'm going to have to talk to the parents.
I was like, okay.
She doesn't seem young, and her voice didn't seem young either. She seemed completely adult.
Yeah, now maybe he's going in there with some preconceived notions, which is what Deputy Mark Proctor definitely had. We got to talk about Proctor.
When lead investigator Michael Proctor took the stand, Jackson rained fire on him, insinuating he was not just incompetent, but corrupt.
This guy, Deputy Proctor, goes to interview Karen, and all he wants to know is how many drinks did you have and could you have done a 3-point turnabout? Now, he then takes her phone, okay? So Deputy Proctor has her phone in his hands. Remember that for when we get to the trial.
Mm-hmm.
John's sister's talking about how quick this is. I mean, John's found dead on Saturday. She is arrested on Tuesday, and they are in court Wednesday for the arraignment. So this has got to be the fastest turnaround we've ever seen for a murder trial.
That is way too fast. They clearly did not investigate this at all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that angle. Yeah, it does support...
Yep.
Yeah, okay. We also got to say that since this... Well, I assume it's because it's an open case, much like it was with our killer children's book author, Corey, but...
Corey told her mother the letter was part of like a 65-page freaking mystery fiction novel that I've been working on.
There's no cops in here, and we've got people that have no business being in here.
The fact that there are no cops also supports the conspiracy theory.
But gotta save it because I don't.
Which we'll talk about.
Yeah, but I say, Kateline, point to that theory. So she's arraigned. We got this stuff cooking, and then they get a call from an informant.
The tipster also seemed to have detailed knowledge of John's injury.
Now, this informant. Why don't you tell us? Do you remember what the informant had to say? All we know is he was like a police investigator turned private eye. We never saw his face or anything, but the cops knew who it was because did he testify or something? Like, people knew who this person was, correct?
Maybe he had worked with the cops on cases before.
Okay. So this informant comes forward and calls, I think, Karen, right? Does he call Karen and say, look, I know for a fact that you didn't kill John. The people that killed John were all those other cops at the party house.
Right.
According to this informant,
yes,
he was beaten to death and then, I guess, carried out to the end of the driveway and thrown in the snow. And this is all a cover-up by the people inside the party house to cover up the fact that they killed a cop, and they're trying to press it on Karen. She is just their patsy. What were you thinking when this informant was introduced? Were you buying it? Were you suspicious?
I was buying it at this point.
At this point. I'm always on the fence about informants. I'm always very suspicious because it could just be some asshole weirdo that wants to throw a wrench in the case. Like, just by saying you're an informant is a little bit of a doubt here, which the lawyers will love to talk about in court. Even if there's a little sliver of you that thinks maybe she didn't do it, you must acquit or whatever, right?
Well, I guess I should say I was buying it just because I knew that this was a Dateline episode and we needed more than just she hit him with her car and that's it.
Yeah. This informant comes in hot and Karen Reed is believing him front to back. I mean, he says, first of all, his wounds were not that of a car accident, to which I would say he was not in a car accident. He was in a hit and run. I mean, whether or not you believe it happened, it was not a car accident. So what kind of wounds is he talking about? You with me?
Yes. But I would argue that those wounds, they could be from either.
Yeah.
It could be from being beaten up or getting run over by a car.
I agree. I'm proud of myself for staying level-headed here. Although I shouldn't really, because I am on the fence, ultimately. There's only one person I'm against 100%.
Yes.
Am I not turtly enough?
AC had a funny line. Tipster dropped his own tips, but Karen Reed and her lawyers were still listening. Because they run with this big time. Now, you said you didn't recognize one of her lawyers. Alan Jackson, the guy who's like, I don't tread lightly. If you don't like my treading, then you could take a hike, mister.
Yeah, I don't know how to tread lightly. I tread toward the truth, period. And if that ruffles feathers, so be it. If that pisses people off, so be it. Get over it.
You remember this guy?
I remember him because you pointed him out.
So he's a defense attorney now all of a sudden. But there was a time in the early 2000s where he was a prosecutor in LA. And he is the one that successfully convicted Phil Spector. I mean, we just saw it on Homicide Los Angeles.
No, I thought he was Phil Spector's defense attorney.
No, prosecutor. That confused me this whole friggin' app. He was a prosecutor at the time.
I knew they said that he was a former prosecutor turned defense attorney, but I thought all of his celebrity clients were when he was a defense attorney.
You may have skipped that Homicide LA episode because it's...
Oh, no, I did not.
You watched it. Okay. Well,
Yes.
He was the star of it, and the whole thing was that LA had never won these type of trials before. OJ, they were still really hurting from OJ.
Murder is legal in the state of California.
But like all the celebrity trials, the city always lost in court. So it was a big deal that they win that one. Remember, it was hung, and then they had to do it again years later or whatever.
The LA DA's office had not won a high-profile case in 40 years.
But anyway, I liked him on that show. Not crazy about him here.
He was a little full of himself here, bringing some very LA energy to some Boston. How do I want to say this?
Yeah, no, give it a shot. Give it a shot. Just say what you feel, Kate.
I'm just going to say he brought that LA energy to Boston, and I don't know that it was a vibe.
Yeah, and AC was there to experience his vibe when one of his many theories is that Karen Reed's was driving a car, Kate. What kind of car was Karen Reed cruising around in?
It was a Lexus SUV, which Murphdog really loved. He was like, "Oh, that's so big."
He called it, like, he had a word for it, like it being gigantic or whatever.
Right.
The full-size SUV.
That's the monster truck, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Murphdog is literally in 10 minutes of this episode, maybe, and we get what he says for being drunk. He goes, "You weren't legless at the time."
I mean, I felt like I had a couple drinks, but I
You didn't say I'm legless here. This is
I didn't feel impaired.
Legless means drunk. I love it. I mean, I'm using that from now on. He was stoked about talking about the car details, and I thought, I feel like I know somebody that Murphdog you get along with. I know somebody else who loves cars. What do you think?
I think look, that Lexus SUV, yeah, it's big, but it's not Tahoe big. It's not Expedition big. It's still like a shorter SUV.
Kate, I'm so pumped you said Expedition. Now, do you know why I'm stoked that you said Expedition? The next scene where AC and that friggin' lawyer...
I don't know how to tread lightly. Get over it.
...are going, okay, this is not the car, but it has similar taillights, okay?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember this? AC's literally standing in front of the Ford logo, specifically, because it doesn't say Lexus. Like, and they both have a turn at it of going like, it's not the same make or model, but it's very, very similar. And that was an Expedition that they were talking about.
Yeah, it's not. It's not similar.
Well, does me saying the letters LX mean anything? That was like the sub Lexus.
Yeah, that's the model. That's the SUV model. I mean, it's like...
and that's still smaller?
It's the biggest Lexus, but to be like, wow, that's a big one is weird.
Yeah.
Again, it's not the size of a Tahoe. It's not like the size of an Escalade. It's tall.
Right.
It's tall.
Okay. It's tall. So obviously she's out on bail and... oh, wait, we got to say how she... Do you remember how she picked Alan Jackson to call and say, hey, do you think you can help me out? Do you remember what other name she drops? A name I would not drop no matter what in my court case. Do you ever?
Oh, was it Epstein? What did she say?
She said that she called professors around the country, and one was like, there's this one case you should look at that they won. It was Kevin Spacey.
I know what you want.
Great.
Oh, yes.
Great.
She was like, he won the Kevin Spacey case in Boston.
Yeah, I'm like, why would you bring his name into this at all? Why?
Why would you be like, oh, great, he's really good at getting guilty people off, is what she said, basically, with that.
Yeah, that is true. So she calls him up and he's in. He can't wait. And so she's rearrested in June of 2022. So she's rearrested, but the trial does not happen until... Wait, so was she on bail for like 2 years? What's up with that?
Probably.
Okay. And during that time, she's doing her own investigating. They're looking at the data. Oh, wait.
She was very involved in the investigation. She's there in the war room with all the lawyers and everybody they hired, and she's fully calling shots.
Cutting people off.
And I don't blame her. If I were in that position, I would want to be involved too.
Yeah, that war room scene was giving me straight up staircase vibes. I don't know about you, Kate. What do you think?
Well, it was staged, just like...
Staircase?
You know, the staircase.
Yeah, fine.
Well, at least in the staircase, it was like they knew the film crew was going to be there, so it was like, let's all sit towards the camera. And this was clearly lit.
Yeah, you're right.
Like,
this was way more produced.
It was lit.
And it was in like a Marriott conference room. It was not in Michael Peterson's living room.
Yeah.
But this is a great opportunity for me to talk again. A shout out to that lawyer for getting so mad at that court aide for not knowing how to PowerPoint.
Do you want it right now? You
Yes.
want to prepare him for it?
No. Well, that doesn't work. No.
I can understand. If one is off, then they're all going to be off. And then I can
This
put
is
them in proper
how
order.
it needs to be.
I do understand
it's
that.
right there.
I know that. I made an error when I loaded them in. Right now, where
This
I am
system sucks.
It's my favorite part of the staircase. So every time we talk about it, I gotta bring it up.
I love his lawyer.
So good. What's that guy doing these days? He should get in on this. We should see him on a Dateline. You think he's still at it? Maybe he left the field.
Maybe he retired.
That too. I mean, the literal staircase guy died, didn't he? Isn't Michael Peterson dead now? Or is he out? He's just out straight up because he served his sentence.
I think that's a question for the Googs.
Off to the Googs. Oh my God, this picture of Dennis Murphy I'm screenshotting to send to you later when you're least expecting it. Okay, it's gonna be hilarious. Who am I Googing?
Michael Peterson.
Michael 81. Still kicking. Okay. Asked and answered. Now we're on to the trial, and sometimes in a Dateline on the weaker apps, this is where we go, and what the hell happened for the rest of the episode? Well, good news. A ton of shit happened during this trial that we both want to talk about. Am I right?
Oh yeah, this trial was oof.
Yeah.
It makes me really distrust law enforcement even more.
So are you talking about Proctor? Are you talking about Deputy Dingus and his texts?
Yes, I am.
So Mr. Proctor, the guy that left Karen Reed's house with Karen Reed's telephone, what is he getting grilled about on the stand at this trial?
So they're grilling him about what happened after he received her phone. He was messaging his cop buddies, and they're asking him, have you found anything yet? What's on the phone? Is she guilty? Etc. And he is texting back, no nudes yet, and then says, which, first of all, it's funny, but it's not professional. Don't do that. And then he says, no ass, though.
Yeah, and he also called her the R word, which was weird.
What did you write after you talked about going through the, quote, retarded client's phone?
Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Calls her the R word, and let's talk about this nudes part, because I had a funny roller coaster ride with this, because they tease it before they go to commercial, that he's searching for nudes of her.
You were looking for naked photographs of Miss Reed as you sat in your office at 9:44 p.m.
So in my head, I'm going, Proctor's at home with his hand in his drawers, Googling Karen Reed. That's what I thought was happening.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, but we go to it, and now, the first time I watched the episode, I did not have subs on, because I'm recording the screen, don't tell anybody. Second time I watch it, I got the subs on. I see that I thought he texted back, no news so far. No news. Luckily, the subs tell me, no, he said nudes, y'all.
Nudes.
He's talking about nude pics, yeah.
No nudes so far.
No nudes so far, correct?
Correct.
And you said that to your bosses.
Now, look, he should never say that, and he's so stupid for doing that in a text, because he's got to know by now that can come back to haunt him. But I'm not gonna say I'm defending this guy, but I don't think he was specifically looking for nudes of her. He was just being an asshole guy. You know what I mean? That felt like a joke in poor taste he said to other cop buddies.
Exactly.
I don't think he was really going, I gotta see what her tits look like.
Absolutely. It like I said, it's funny, but it's not appropriate.
Yeah. And hey, he owns it on the stand, does he not? I feel like he kind of took his lumps as he needed to.
Oh, well, he had already been fired, so he didn't really have much of a choice.
Yeah, maybe he didn't have a choice. I mean, that's some crazy stuff to be texting.
And it was unclear, did they know her before this? Or were the cops that she was hanging around with, like John and his buddies, was that a different group of cops than the ones that were investigating?
I think that they ran in, it was like the same department or whatever, but they weren't necessarily friends. Or maybe that was the guy who owned the house, right? Like John wasn't close buddies with all the cops at this party, but he knew them socially, correct?
Right, but the guy who owned the house knew all of these detectives.
Yeah, I believe so.
Which also supports the conspiracy theory.
One of their first examples is that the first person that Karen called, Jen McCabe, at 2:27 a.m. had Googled how long to die in the cold. But good old AC, she had to represent that typo, and she pronounced it like it was spelled. That was good, right? She said
it was
Haas.
Hod. Oh, Haas.
Haas to
Haas long.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it.
At 2:27, she did a search saying Haas long to die in cold.
So they're saying that someone who was at that party is Googling this at 2:27. That would be like 2 hours after Karen left. But if we're buying Karen's timeline, she's asleep in front of the front door at this point, right?
Yes. Passed out.
And this Google was also deleted.
That's what's weird about it.
Yes, I agree.
I don't delete my Google searches.
It's futile to delete them. Who are you deleting them for?
Right.
If they want to know what you searched, obviously, we have at least 20 years now of them reading straight up Googles from 5 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
Why would anybody?
There's no privacy.
So what's your take on Jen McCabe? So let's say you support this conspiracy theory. Are you buying that she did this after the cleanup and is like, are we going to get away with this? What are you thinking?
I would say before the trial, yes, that's what I was thinking. Then they put Jen on the stand, and she explained what that Google search was.
Which was what?
She said it didn't happen at 2:47, which I'm like, it says when it happened. But she claimed it happened when Karen asked her to Google that she was with Karen when Karen asked her to Google that. And it was later at 4 something. And then they never said, well, what time was it? They just said it was timestamped at 2 something. And then Jen says, no, it was later. It was 4 something.
Yes.
The Google isn't going to say the wrong time.
Unless it's a time zone thing, which they didn't say either. Maybe the readout.
But it's Boston. I don't understand. It would have been Eastern Standard Time, no matter how you looked at it.
Yeah.
They're investigating it in that time zone. They're looking it up in that time zone.
I guess I was thinking an iPhone out of the box is set to Cupertino or something. But you're right. When they're using their special devices to look at the iCloud, which we love to talk about, it would say the proper time zone. So if that's true, I could 1,000% see her Googling that when she's with Jen at 5 a.m.
Yeah, because Jen's like, how long has he been out here? How long does it take? Could he be dead? When is he going to freeze to death? I totally get that, if that's at 5.
Yeah.
But the fact that they said it was 2 something.
That's really what's keeping me on the fence.
And they never clarified it.
They don't. I got to know more about that.
She adamantly denied she did the Google search at 2:27 a.m. and deleted it, insisting she did it after they found John's body, and only because Karen asked her to.
So that's one thing they put forward, and Alan Jackson is saying that's no small feat. That, he was like, this is the big one. And I agree, that's a pretty big thing, pretty big discrepancy, because it does make me lean one way or the other if I knew what time it was.
Yes.
And they also, this is also the lady who said that Karen Reed said, I killed him.
That's something that she said once or more than once?
3 times. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Now, Kate, what movie am I going to talk about right now where they read what the defendant said and they say it and it sounds like they're admitting to killing, but then we hear from the defendant and it's like, no, I was saying that incredulously, questioning, I killed him. I killed him. What movie is that from?
I don't know.
My Cousin Vinny, you and Murphdog's favorite movie.
Oh, I mean, I only know it for
that one scene.
Yeah.
It is a trick question.
So you don't remember when he beats up the guy in the alley or anything? Kateline, it sounds like we got to watch My Cousin Vinny on the Patreon, is what it's really sounding like.
Okay.
Would you be opposed?
No, I'm down.
We would not be dissing it. We'd be loving it because I remember so much of it, apparently.
Apparently.
But I'm going to play the clip right now. It was identical.
I shot the clerk.
Yes, when did you shoot him?
I shot the clerk.
I asked him if he did it, and he said, I shot the clerk. I asked him again. And again, he said, I shot the clerk.
That was good. That was good stuff. You and Murphdog should be buds. And then let's talk about this Lexus expert and the data that they brought to the table with the Lexus. I mean, you got to have thoughts on this. That's some crazy shit they were able to talk about, huh?
Yeah.
There is a black box. They call it a black box at one point, like in airplanes. But there's a black box in the Lexus that is recording the data of what happened when all the shit goes down. Now, we've heard about this before and it's come into play, but they talked about knowing when the Lexus accelerated, when it wobbled, when it went in reverse. Honestly, I felt like I was watching an NASCAR race because it's the SMT data. They know exactly, people can't say, oh, I didn't, or I let up on the gas. They can go, no, you did not. You actually pressed on the gas. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're doing with this Lexus. That's wild that you can do that now. Did you know that?
When you take your car into the shop, the first thing they do now is they plug it into the computer. And that tells them everything they need to know about what's going wrong with it. Modern cars are just fully computers.
Okay.
And Yeah, they can tell when it's in park, when it's accelerating, when it's reversing, and
the wiggle. I mean,
well, yeah, I guess they can tell the wiggle because of suspension and wheel turns and stuff, because it's got a digital footprint. I mean, it's not that crazy when you know everything's run on a computer.
Yeah.
Now, if you're talking about like a vintage car, no, that's all analog. That's not going to give you anything.
Yeah.
But these new cars, and especially a Lexus, yeah, everything is recorded.
So the vehicle was traveling in reverse up to 24 miles per hour and approximately 62 feet.
This is the prosecution's point. They say that the data shows that she went in reverse at 24 miles an hour, and there was like a bump, like she ran over something, but she kept on the acceleration. They could tell this.
Yeah.
And so the prosecution is saying that she, accident or not, backed into him real fast, knocked his head with the taillight, because not only that, her back taillight's busted, and they find the shards, the pieces of the taillight where they found John's body.
Right.
The prosecution brings this up as, I think, a pretty good point, is why, whether she meant to or not, she's responsible. I mean, this is kind of a smoking gun to me, a little bit. But I'm sure you have a counter, Kate, so go ahead and tell me what the conspiracy angle is on these shards.
They argued that the taillight is very hard to break because it's like molded plastic. It's not like glass shards. So they said that it wasn't broken, that it was just sort of... They provided surveillance footage of her later that morning leaving her house again. And we see her backing up, and she hits John's car with that same back right taillight. So they claim that that's what broke.
Did she hit it?
You can see John's car shake. She did tap it. She did not hit it hard enough for the taillight to break, like they're claiming.
But this is why I'm so confused that this is the defense's argument. Because they've got Alan Jackson standing next to the not Lexus Expedition, punching this thing, going, you can't break this if you punch it. But is his argument not that it broke when she barely tapped it? Isn't that his argument?
Yes. And also, once again, that is not the same car. You can't punch an Expedition taillight and be like, see, if we're talking about a Lexus. I mean, they're different glass makers.
That's a great point. Well, it's probably plastic, right?
Yeah, whatever. It's different.
Whatever it was broken. It didn't just fall off. Like, we see a picture of the broken taillight, and there's still a piece of the red still on there. But I was just so damn confused between me not knowing if he's a prosecutor or a defense attorney, and then this, because it sounds like he's providing stuff for the prosecution. I don't get what his point is by talking about it.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah. So, and he loved punching it too. He was loving it.
You could pound on this all day long, and you're not going to be able to break this with your hand, with your fist.
AC's like, well, I mean, that's pretty convincing. You guys find pieces of the broken taillight at the location. And you know that there's a classic FF where they pieced it together to prove that it was the same plastic. So that's just a little side note. But when AC says this, he goes, yeah, but go back to the video. And he thinks he busted a huge conspiracy because the video was reversed. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And when you flip it, I guess it makes you think it's the other light. But he says, who is this body walking around that area but old no-ass Proctor?
Jackson suggested Proctor could have smashed the taillight.
Now Alan Jackson's theory is that the cops broke it themselves and then planted the broken pieces of the plastic. What are your thoughts on that?
Which is why I'm like, then why would you include that surveillance of her backing into John's car? It just muddies it, because you have the surveillance of the car when the cops bring it in to examine it, and we see that it's reversed and that Proctor goes around the side of it. Just that's enough for your theory.
But what does the reverse do? I feel like that is, again, when they take the camera out of the box and it says 1970 because they didn't set the date. I think this is a user error. Like, what's the point in the reverse?
Because then it's a different taillight.
But they're not arguing that in this image the taillight is together. They're not arguing that. They're arguing that body is the person who broke it. Like, that body is there, reversed or not. That's still Mark Proctor.
Right, but they're showing that he goes around that taillight at that moment and lingers there.
Does he linger? We just didn't see him. He's behind this tall Lexus.
Very tall.
Very tall. But, okay, I hear you. I guess if it was reversed, you'd go, well, that's the left taillight. We're talking about the right one. You got me there. How'd they know that was him? How can they prove that while he disappeared behind the Lexus, he broke it and collected it, and then somebody drove over to the house and put him there? That's a slippery slope for me. as far as the conspiracy theory goes.
Yeah.
But perhaps the slipperiest is when they say that the guy who owned the party house liked to fight. I mean, my eyes are still in pain from rolling for continuous minutes at the suggestion that because he appeared on a reality show that he likes to box, that somehow he's like, loves to fight people. What do you think about all this stuff?
The thing that was suspicious to me, though, was that the guy who owns the house never once came outside. Cops are all over his lawn investigating a death, and he went back to sleep. He wasn't even there. He was inside. It was like, my cop buddies will handle it, basically. Like, that's, if you believe the conspiracy theory, it's like his boys told him, stay in the house, we'll figure this out.
Okay. Now, if I were to argue from the prosecution, I could say, nobody knows whether or not he went back to sleep. He did not come outside, but that could be a choice on purpose so he doesn't contaminate the scene, because he goes out there and people are going to go, what are you doing here? Well, I own the house. All of a sudden he's part of it. So he knows what goes on at a crime scene and how many bodies are there that should not be, and how one cop's job is to go, get out of here. This is a scene, or the scene of a crime, right?
I can clear this. This is Mr. Peterson. She lives here. Did I ask you?
So he stayed inside because he knows it. That also works for me.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. But you agree the reality show angle is complete horse, right?
Yeah, I mean, what cop doesn't like to fight?
Yeah, and also, like, if it was that he liked to do street fights or, like, something like that, but he likes boxing. Like, people work out by boxing. Right. Like, I don't understand anyway, lame. So I'm kicking that one out. If I'm the judge, I'm saying, no, weak sauce. Let me hear another.
Objection? Relevance?
They objected a bunch, and every time that judge said, I'll allow it.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Okay, what are we forgetting about the trial here? What is another, because I guess it sounds like we're going to say where we land and what we believe happened. But am I forgetting anything about the trial?
Well, it was a mistrial.
Oh, yeah, I guess we could talk about the outcome. It was a mistrial, and they will be trying it again with the same people, same judge in January.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll get an update then.
Of course. And will Murphdog be involved? Who knows? Who knows?
Maybe Murphdog will be in the courtroom.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be awesome. What if he's called as a witness? Oh my God! Okay, hold up. If you remember, that one lawyer tried to get AC in the trial for one of our previous cases. He wanted her to testify because she had interviewed the person who's on trial. Do you remember this?
No.
I forget which killer it was for, but they wanted to subpoena her or whatever and make her a witness. NBC said, no, not happening. So, because all of the interview stuff from Karen Reed that's in this episode, and we know for a fact they can use that in court. So, Murphdog could very well be part of this case. What do you think?
That would be so fun.
I would love it. And I would love it because AC was like, hell no, I don't want to do that because that's stupid. But I would love Murphdog going, I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there. Is it in Florida? If it's not, it doesn't matter. I'm going. Oh, that's truly the outcome I'm hoping. That's the one I hope it is. And that's why they don't mention it at all.
Let's hope for that.
Sweet. All right, so Kateline, what do you think happened? What's your theory? Wait, we didn't talk about that stick turtle boy. We gotta talk about this guy, sadly. Right?
Okay, so this case got so much attention and so much support from just regular people all over the world, actually, because this guy who goes by the name Turtleboy.
What's up, losers? How's everyone doing tonight?
He has a heavy online social media presence, and he was really interested in this case, and then he talked about it and spread the word. And it sounds like most people are in support of the conspiracy theory, and they think that Karen is being framed. And Turtleboy is really making this kind of about himself. He's loving the attention.
Yeah.
To the point where he's been asked to, like, cease and desist because he's becoming a nuisance.
Oh, yeah, he's got his own trial coming up because of it. I think it's because he's badgering the witness or whatever.
Yeah. He has instigated, like, mobs at these court hearings, and people are attacking John's family.
You are a disgrace. I'll see whatever I want.
Which... John is the victim here.
Yeah. Now, look, I would never be on the side of Turtleboy because this is clearly like the masses are asses. Like, he's getting people riled up because he can say words that sound good together.
Yeah.
This is a tool as old as time.
He's making money.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. I mean, he's getting tens of thousands of streams. I mean, I'll take that. I'll take those numbers.
Sure, but that's pretty low.
That is low. They are attacking John and his family, and I don't get the headspace. They're going, shame on you, shame on you. John's family are maggots. They've got footage of him yelling at John's brother. Your brother would be so mad at you right now, dude. And he's like, I can say whatever I want. I'm Turtle Boy. I can say whatever I want.
Yeah, what would John be mad about?
Were you raging then? I mean, I don't get what their angle
I don't
is
either.
that what the family did. Like, they don't get to press charges. Like, just because they believe that she drunkenly hit him and lied, like, that's why they're maggots?
It's wild. I don't think we have to talk about Turtle Boy that much, but
okay, fair.
He sucks.
He sucks big time. Yeah, and look, I don't want to just be 10 minutes of me yelling about him.
Exactly.
We'll be cutting this down, but I just can't emphasize enough that he sucks. And all those normal people you talk about that travel from Scotland to support this, those are just true crime weirdos. It's just another level of us that made the trip.
They are. Although, Karen and her lawyers love all of this support.
Oh, yeah, they do.
But it just feels very misplaced and in poor taste.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with John's sister, who is a talking head in this. She talks with AC. I'm with her 1,000%. I think everything that she said, I believe, right? I mean, let's get into it.
Except for the part about Karen not saying goodbye to the kids. Those aren't her kids.
Okay.
And she didn't know it was
right.
goodbye. That was very dramatic.
Fair.
We didn't need that.
Fair. But, I mean, I'll tell you right now, here's what I think happened that night. You ready for this?
Well, you asked me first.
I sure did. What I meant to say was, here's what Kateline thinks about this. Kurt, are you ready for this? Yes, I am. Continue.
I think, while I love a good conspiracy theory, and I like entertaining them, I think in this case, she was drunk, didn't realize she hit John, and left. I think this was a pure 100% stupid drunken accident. And now this woman could go away for murder, where if she had not been drunk and hit him by accident and had the clarity of mind to call the cops and be like, oh my God, I accidentally just hit my boyfriend. None of this there would be no trial. Accidents happen.
Yeah, I agree that her reaction to him getting hit, she's paranoid. She's like, I'm drunk. I'll get charged for this, whatever. Like, the blue wall can only protect me so far or whatever. Like, they have someone who does the math. They had a fun word for it. But she blew a .08 5 hours after this death. Okay? So they do that math backwards.
Yeah.
And she blew a .292. Now, that's shit-housed. You can't drive. You could probably drive it.
Yes.
You should not be driving a car.
You can't do much. That's incredibly drunk.
Yes, absolutely. And here's what I think happened is, look, maybe I speak from experience of going to parties with a significant other. She gets all, I want to go home and I hate your friends. And I'm like, I'm having the time of my life. So here's what happened. They roll up to this party. Karen wants to go home. She's like, there's nobody even here. So John's like, I'll just go in. I'll see what's going on up there. And she's like, no, I just want to leave. They get in a fight and he's like, you never want to party. And she's like, I'm flirting with the ATF guy that's in there. I don't want to see him. They get in a fight. He gets out. He could very well have stormed out and said, I'm going to this party. I'll see you tomorrow. He does that because we see text earlier when he's like, I don't want to fight anymore, blah, blah, blah. And Karen's like, what? You don't want to do this anymore? And she's all about it. She's ready to throw down whenever. I think in a rage, she threw that puppy in reverse, hit him on purpose in the sense that someone who blew a .292 did it. She thought she's just pushing him or something. Like, it was a drunken rage mistake, but I think she might have purposely hit him. He slipped and hit his head on the whatever, and she bolted out of there and came up with this story. What do you think?
I think it's possible. I feel like the logistics of where she pulled up and where his body was and where he would be if he was getting out of the car to go inside doesn't quite make sense for like it being intentional, because he would have had to go around. Because if she did a 3-point turn and backed into him like the car, like the computer in the car was saying, where would he have been standing? None of that made sense to me. Whereas if he went inside and she didn't realize that he had come back out to tell her something and she didn't see him and backed up, it's very confusing. And then when his body is found where it is, it's like way up off the side of the driveway, but she's like down on the road.
Okay.
I do think that she hit him, but I don't know that it would have been intentional, because if he was getting out of the car, he would be right next to her, not behind her.
But What if she pulled up to the house and she's a little bit past the driveway, and because it's snowing like crazy and the driveway was, shoveled or blown earlier, he's walking backwards to get to the driveway entrance to walk up to the front door. Like he says, you know what, you can go home and do whatever you want. I'm going to party with my buds. He gets out, walks to the entrance of the driveway, therefore now he's at the back of the Lexus. And she says, you know what, John? The geography of that makes perfect sense to me.
And if she was going 27 miles an hour, you said?
24.
24, the force of that would have thrown him further back onto that snowbank.
Yeah, and they said something about he had abrasions that matched the curb. When they were talking about the wounds, I wasn't really buying it here or there. Because they love to say it was a dog. Did you think it was a dog?
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. The defense argued that pig DNA was found on John, which indicates that a dog was chewing on one of its pig chewy things and then bit John. So their theory is that he's getting beat up by these cops and then the dog joined in.
Yeah, and well, look, the defense wants to know, where's that dog today? You got rid of him, didn't you? And Brian Albert's up there going, well, we rehomed him. And Alan Jackson's like, you could call it whatever you want, bro. You got rid of that dog because it was violent.
Family got rid of Chloe.
Chloe was rehomed in May 2023.
We can use whatever words we want to. Rehomed, rehoused, whatever. But you got rid of her. She's no longer part of the Albert family, right?
Right.
Now, I guess you could buy that, but I think that pig DNA was on him because at some point he was playing with a dog that ate a pig ear. I think it's like we were shocked by the pig DNA in If These Walls Could Talk.
And pig DNA.
Pig DNA?
Yes.
Like, we've heard of pig DNA before, and Keith said it, and it was so funny, and I use it a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not shocking anymore. It's from a dog treat, so he was around a dog. Big deal. I think move on. The fact they got rid of the dog and stuff, what could have gone wrong in that party that made them all decide to do this? What's the defense's theory? Why would they do this to him? There was no struggle. There was no...
Yeah.
They left the party.
And they didn't say that, John had been against them with some kind of cop business or whatever. Like, there was no internal investigation that he instigated and they were all going to be in trouble for something. Like, they didn't want him dead for any reason. Unless it was just a dumb, drunk fight. But that's pretty... the problem here is that everybody was drunk.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hey, it's great support for my theory that booze should be... Well, whatevs. Hey, don't get drunk, bros, because this could happen. If nobody was drinking, it wouldn't have happened. I think that's safe to say, Kate. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, I've been in that scenario so many times. I mean, fine, I'm going alone, I'm going home. It is like, I could recite that. I've lived that. All the conspiracy angles, you present the points, and I say, if I believed the conspiracy, I guess that's what I would hang my hat on. But I just feel like if this was an episode of Blue Bloods, or like SVU, I would say, oh yeah, the trial happened way too fast. This is cops protecting cops. But it's not. Right? It feels too arch for me. For something that there's no proof there was any animosity.
Also, nobody inside that house knew what had gone on outside. So if they had killed him, they didn't know that Karen could be even used as a patsy. Because they weren't there. They were inside. So it's a leap to be like, they threw his body there, and then maybe when Karen comes looking for him, we'll hope she's still drunk and then frame her for it? That doesn't make any sense.
No, you're right. Let's reverse it. Everything that we're suggesting happened where Karen's trying to pin it on them, that all makes absolutely perfect sense. Someone who is completely housed, accidentally backed up into her boyfriend that she was mad at. He hit his head on the curb. He's dead. Oh no, I panic, I drove away. Even if I call from down the street, it looks like I drove away. I gotta come up with something. That makes too much sense. I mean, that to me is exactly what happened.
Right? You think she did it intentionally in a drunk rage. I think it could have just been a logistical error and a total accident, which would never have happened if they weren't drunk. I'd like to give her the benefit of the doubt that she's not intentionally trying to kill her boyfriend or intentionally trying to hit him with the car. Maybe she didn't want to kill him, but I don't know.
I suppose I'm biased. I'm going into this thinking of all the things I've done when I was that level of drunk, okay? I'm on a roof naked. I wake up, people are telling me all the things I did, and I'm mortified. Like, I get those insane. Like, you've witnessed it probably. Like, over at Tony's, I sleep over. I'm the last one asleep. I'm hiding pepperoni in the couch and putting his wireless mouse under his mattress or whatever. And then they wake up to my bare ass on the coffee table. That's what happens. Like, none of those decisions made sense, but I was drunk. Right? I think she got pissed, slammed on reverse, and this is where we are today.
Are you hiding pepperoni? Like, you mean you're hiding your dick in the couch, or you're hiding actual pepperoni?
No. It's food, and then I like stain stuff with hot sauce. A lot of my drunken pranks involve food. Like, I put crushed up Doritos in my buddy's coin jar so it'd be hard to clean. And then I put like his belt in the freezer. And then my most devious of drunken hide and seeks is I put a pound of fresh cut turkey in my buddy's couch. And I didn't remember it because I woke up saying, hey, what did we do last night? To like scowls and people being very pissed off at me. And months passed and they go, what the hell stinks in here? So much so,
oh God,
it stunk so bad they said, we don't know what's wrong with this couch. We've got to get rid of it. So they're picking up this couch because they're taking it to the curb. And what falls out but a old ass moldy bag, friggin' turkey stinking up the joint. That's pretty bad, huh?
You're an asshole.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's time we go to those lists before I share any more stories that will turn people against me.
Kate's unnamed list. Kate's unnamed list. We got a car.
Yeah.
We got a very tall Lexus SUV.
Yeah. With a broken back taillight and with some crazy black box computer stuff. Like, that's got to be in the description of this Lexus for us, is that we knew every single move they made in that thing.
Yeah. That might be the only thing on my list.
Yep. Yeah, no puzzle talk, that's for sure. No puzzles, I don't think. No puzzles.
I think, let's hear your list.
All right. Kurt's Kick-Ass List.
Kick-Ass List. Kick-Ass List.
AC, when she's talking about the Funkle taking over these kids and not being married or having kids, she says, this is like a TV drama.
It's the beginning of like a TV drama, right?
Exactly.
The Bachelor takes in the kids.
Yes.
And I agree. And if I saw that on the lineup or as a new show on the cock, I wouldn't really flinch at it. But I think that is so down the line in 80s sitcom. The parents were killed in some mysterious thing they don't talk about. The uncle takes over and is played by like Stamos or something. I mean, this is primo sitcom stuff.
Well, that's Full House.
I did just kind of describe Full House, didn't I? Wake up. Oh my God, I'm getting woozy. We gotta wrap this up because I'm hot as hell in here. I'm losing it. What do you think, Kate? You ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, on that note, I'm Kurt Money, and this is Mrs. Colombo.
I'm Kateline.
I'm Lester Holt. For all of us, I'm Lester Holt. Good night.